call it. Hello everybody! Razorblade Mango here, and this is God of War! Or as I like to call it, Boy! The video game. Seriously, there's so many times Kratos yells, Boy! Within the first hour of this game, that if you tried to play a drinking game with that, you'd be dead. You'd be dead before you'd even reach the hour mark. Seriously, like, I'm not exaggerating. He yells, boy, a lot in this game. To the point where I almost forget his name is Atreus and not boy. So, this is God of War for PlayStation 4. Do I really need to explain this? Like, it's God of War. This has been... I haven't seen a game with this much, blockbuster prowess behind it in quite some time. Especially as far as the, worldwide critical acclaim goes with this thing. High expectations. I think the last time I saw something like this was maybe, I don't know, Breath of the Wild was the last time. Not even, like, Super Mario Odyssey, had super, super high reviews and everything, but I don't think there was as much cultural, weight and power behind it as God of War has, or something like Breath of the Wild. Which, yeah, this is God of War. So this video is going to be mainly my first impressions of the main campaign. I'm not even close to giving this game, a final thoughts video or whatever, a spoiler cast or whatever. Which this is going to be 100% spoiler free. And I'm going to be very conscious about what I put as video footage in this, because I think so much of this game is best left unspoiled. Like, even stuff that's in the first hour, I think, is best left for you guys to see. And I'm annoyed that so many videos out there are showing some of, like, the best parts of the opening 2 hours. And I'm not going to be one of them. I'm going to do my very best to show stuff that is not, is already out there and kind of like the public consciousness as far as things we've seen in the last couple of years with God of War. So you don't have to worry about this thing being like visual spoilers or audio spoilers or anything. So don't worry about that. This is 100% spoiler free. I'm going to do my best to make it 100% spoiler free.
That is enough.
So, this game, to get straight to the point, I really like it. I really, really like the main campaign. And it's a good sign that I'm already starting my second playthrough of it on a harder difficulty to go back and try to, be more of an explorer, to try to find all the hidden things. Because I played this my first time on normal difficulty. I'm almost like mostly stuck with the main campaign. I don't think I completed one single side mission. I didn't do any of the, hunting for collectibles and whatever. I just went with the main campaign and stuck through it because I didn't want this stupid thing spoiled for me, because so many fucking people have, like, thrown up videos about all the stuff or the bosses that are in this game on YouTube, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not going to be spoiled by that. No, I'm going to get through this game. I'm going to avoid all that for the next couple days and power through it. And that's why I haven't been, I've kind of like disappeared. It felt like I've disappeared over the last couple of days, but knowing you guys, probably not that big of a deal. But it's really good. I have problems with it. I don't think it's the best God of War game ever made, at least not yet. And that's why I'm saying this is a first impressions. Maybe after a second playthrough and going through some of the side content, it will rise above in my head. But right now, it stands as a really fun and unexpected revitalization of a series that I was honestly growing tired of. my history with God of War is I came into this series when the PlayStation 2 was being phased out. And I'd heard about God of War a long time ago from Game Informer, where they gave it, the first game, like a 10 out of 10. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this game? And God of War, I've never heard of this. And I was intrigued. But I never got to play it until God of War 2 came out. Or maybe even like a year after that. And then I got around to playing God of War 1. And God of War 3 is the reason that I finally bought a PS3 like 4 years after it came out. And I remember saving my money for 9 months in order to buy a PS3 for God of War 3, and I don't regret it because I loved the games that came out on the PS3. It, like, God of War 3 is kind of like was my way back into gaming almost, because there were a couple years between maybe the end of the PS2 era and then like a couple of years in my middle school years where I didn't really play a lot of new games. But God of War 3 was kind of like my way back in. It was like almost like a homecoming for me. And God of War 3 I love. Like, I love God of War 3. I still think God of War 2 is my favorite one, but I haven't played God of War 2 in a long time, so I probably will need to get back on that, especially after playing this new one. And I started to grow tired of the series. I think Ascension was the point where I realized I was growing tired of it. And I don't hate Ascension. I don't even think I disliked it. I just thought it was okay. But it was obvious that Sony Santa Monica was really stretching themselves thin as far as trying to find material to make a whole nother God of War game around. At least as far as the main campaign. And I felt like that whole game campaign was just an excuse to like have multiplayer in there, which thank God there's no fucking multiplayer in this God of War, so that's a plus. So after Ascension I kind of was just like like I don't even know if I really want another God of War anymore, honestly. Like, I was just kind of burned out on the series. And I think I did a video of this. Like, if you want to go back to like my pre-E3 2016, video where I talk about the conferences, I think I say something along the lines of, if they really want to do God of War again, they're gonna have to really do something different. They're gonna have to change it, because it can't just be the same thing where it's he goes to Norse mythology and he becomes, the God Slayer again. It's got to be something different. It can't just be a reskin of the original trilogy. And that's change. Shit. They pushed the boat out on changing God of War. I was really taken aback by how different this game looked, and I was all for it. I was completely all for it, even though I did have some reservations about things like the camera or the combat or whatever. But I was so blown away by the E3 2016 reveal of this game. I thought it looked incredible. It immediately just like skyrocketed to one of the games I was looking forward to the most. And that's saying a lot, considering a couple of years before that, I was just like, I'm done with God of War. I think this series just needs to be put to rest for a long time. All it needed was just 5 years, I guess, and they've been working on this thing for 5 years, and it really shows with God of War. And I will concur that this is the revitalization that I have been looking for. It is very different from the old games, but what also surprised me about it is how similar it feels in some cases. Things like the set pieces, which are still here, and some of them they're fucking epic, huge ass fights and scenery, and that's a staple of God of War that needs to be there. The brutal combat is still there, albeit very different from the past games. So, like some of the similar themes from the past games carry over into here. And that's the thing, like, there was so much there, like when the images leaked of concept art of Kratos being in the Norse realms with a beard and an axe, people are like, why? Just, they need to get rid of Kratos. They need to get rid of Kratos. And it turns out they didn't, because what's very different about this God of War is that it's not Kratos screaming all the time. It's not Kratos screaming about how he's going to fuck up every god and Greek pantheon thing, every creature imaginable in his path in order to exact revenge on someone or somebody or a group of people. It's just, it's very different. Like, immediately you notice Kratos is a lot, chiller, a lot more toned down compared to the past games. But he still has that rage in him, and that's what I find so interesting about the main campaign. There's a quote from Cory Barlog that sold me on the game, that I really was looking forward to, where he said, "We've already told the story of the Hulk. Now we want to tell the story of Bruce Banner." I was like, okay, that's a good quote. That's clearly, in my head, that clearly shows what they're going for with this one. And I think for the most part, they succeeded with flying colors in terms of storytelling between Kratos and Atreus, his son. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it some more, because I've droned on long enough about the fucking regular thing. So let's actually get into some things that I did not care for about this one. I guess I'll start with, you're going to hear a lot of reports about the campaign being very lengthy, and it is. It took me it's not Persona 5 lengthy, where it's like fucking 100 hours, but it took me about 15 and a half hours to finish the main campaign. But in my opinion, I felt like it could have maybe shaved off a couple hours, or put that content as side content where you don't have to go through a lot of that. Some of the realms I think are not as interesting as others. I'm not going to name names, but some of them just started to wear out their welcome for me in terms of who I was fighting and what I was doing. It started to become a little bit too long, where I was like looking at my timer. I was like, okay, can we wrap this up? Like, I want to push on towards the story. I don't want to be stuck here for another couple of hours, and things happen to where they almost force you to go through these areas, and it's like, okay. Again, just if it lost maybe 2 hours, it would have the pacing would have been a lot better. And it suffers from something I call fetch quest syndrome, where a lot of this game has to do with going to find items, and that's a lot of games do that. A lot of past God of War games are all about going somewhere and finding something, but the problem with that in this game is that because it is so open world and it's much larger compared to past games, which past games, damn it, have you on this set linear path, and it's a very tailor-made experience of what you're getting. This one still has the tailor-made moments, but you're allowed to take it more at your own pace, and it gives you a much bigger area to explore, and you have to go to different realms in order to find everything. In order to complete the main campaign, you have to go through realms. And my issue with that is, in the story, you have to throw out these constant MacGuffins in order to justify going to certain realms, or throw in a wrench a monkey wrench in the gears in order to make the story progress, where you gotta get the wrench out so the plot can keep going. But some of those cases, it starts to be a bit much, where literally a character will go, oh, well, you have to find this thing, and then you have to go here and find this thing, and then you have to go here and find this thing, and it's like, oh my god, how many things do I have to find now? And it just, because you have to go out and fetch so much stuff, it starts to become a little confusing as to what is my ultimate goal here. I know what my ultimate goal is in the long run, but what is my goal in this moment? And because the game throws so much at you, I started to feel a little emotionally disconnected from what I was doing, because I just stopped thinking about, oh, well, I have to go this thing, and it stopped being an intimate story, and it started to become more like your average action thing, and that was the part where it's like starting to lose me here. Thankfully, I think the pacing does pick up in many places. There are moments of such tear-jerking beauty and visual splendor and epic battles that really acts as a counterweight to a lot of the problems I have with the game in terms of pacing, which is good, and I appreciate that. And rest assured, the best parts of this game are not in any of the trailers or the promo stuff. They've done a really good job of hiding a lot of the surprises that are in this game. Shit that I can't even insinuate, because it would just spoil the experience for you guys. And I appreciate that Sony and Santa Monica were just that conscious about what they wanted to show to the public, the small little teases they wanted to show. Speaking of visuals, I can't imagine how much money Sony sunk into this game just for the scenery and the vistas and the fights and the combat. It's just visually, this game is on a whole nother fucking level for the PS4. I'm shocked my base PS4 can run this thing. It's just so big, and there's so many little details and so many little animations that they just nail in this game. Just the way when you throw your Leviathan axe, the way the grass whips around, or the snow becomes this mess of footprints when you're done with a battle. It's just small little things that really help you sell, really make you believe in this world. And I believed in it 100%, even in moments where I was story-wise, just not really feeling it. But beautiful soundtrack too. Oh my god! I knew the soundtrack. I knew the overture was great, because I've been listening to that thing for a year and a half now, or almost 2 years, ever since E3. But yeah, the rest of the soundtrack is fantastic. Just particularly, there's a moment early on that, because of the music and what it was being attached to, just literally within the first 5 minutes, I was I had tears in my eyes, and I was just holy fuck, I never expected to have tears in my eyes during a fucking God of War game. I never thought that day would come, but here you go. It happened. But yeah, just really, really impressive on an audio-visual presentation level. Speaking of story, really good character development too. I know I'm bouncing around here a lot, but I'm trying to I'm trying to be conscious of things that I'm saying, but just forgive me if I bounce around a lot here. Good character development, hard-hitting emotional scenes, like I said. Kratos, Atreus, and other characters are complex, fleshed out human beings or gods or whatever. Even the antagonists are really interesting and have depth and their own history to them. Some of them, they're not just the big name antagonists. They're not just generic, boring villains. They actually are sympathetic almost, and complicated in the way that you maneuver the Norse god pantheon or whatever. And it's really interesting, and I'm excited to see where this all goes in the next game, because this was a really satisfying first glimpse into what potentially could happen in the next games. And I hope it's games. I hope it's not just 2 games and it's a one and done deal, or 3 games. I want to see more of this, and that's a big compliment that once I finished it, I was right, I am excited for the next God of War. I'm excited to see where this is all going. The one of the aspects though that I was disappointed with though are most of the bosses. I really enjoyed maybe 3 of them, and I counted. The other ones I thought were okay or were a little annoying. And this is not a spoiler because they flat out said it in the marketing material of the game. That troll enemy that you see in the E3 2016 demo and that they've shown off constantly, that fucking troll gets reskinned way too much during this game. When I realized, like, oh, we gotta fight another fucking troll. Oh my god. Like I know they've hyped up that all these trolls have their own history or whatever, but it's just like, it gets to be a bit much. Like when you walk into an area and, oh, there's another troll. Oh, alright. And they all like mostly have the same attack patterns, so that was disappointing. But most of the boss fights are these fucking trolls that I just was like, ugh, again. But the boss fights that are good are fucking good. Like I'm not gonna spoil it, but you'll see what I mean. And I also gotta say, I think the violence has been toned down like quite a bit from the past games. Yes, it is still gory. Yes, there are moments of really, graphic violence, but it's really toned down compared to the like explosive carnage of the past games. Like, you're not tearing off Helios's head and watching as like the skin just like slowly stretches and tears as you're like tearing off this guy's head, or where you're like bashing Hercules in the face so many times where his face becomes like a puddle of goo and it just caves in. And there's not going to be moments like that because this is a different Kratos. But instead of that, there is quite a bit of some like pretty intimate ground and pound kind of violence, like some like grapple moves and close quarters combat that I'm not used to seeing from Kratos. And that was really cool to see. It shows visually that he's a different person, a different kind of fighter, perhaps. And there are some moments in this game, like small little moments of violence that I thought were really disturbing. Like they're not over the top, but they're just like small little moments that maybe go like, ooh, that's fucked up, or like that's dark. Like it's they still have those moments, just in a different way. And one moment in particular that I'll have to go into detail like with the spoiler cast, but it just still like I've been thinking about it for like the last couple of days ever since I saw it, and just what it all means. And I was just like, fuck, this game is doing something on a whole nother level with its violence, and I greatly appreciate that. So yeah, that's really about as much as I can say. There's a lot to do. I'm starting to determine whether or not all the extra stuff is as fun and polished as the main campaign, but we'll see. I'll have an updated video about that. And one final note, I guess I'll say, overall, is this my favorite God of War game? Not yet. Is this my favorite PS4 exclusive? Not yet, but it probably won't be, because I still think Bloodborne is the king of PS4. Is it one of my favorite games ever? Fuck no. I don't think it's one of my favorite games ever. But is it a really enjoyable, well-written, and exciting new beginning for a series that I thought was done? Yes. Am I looking forward to the future of this franchise? Absolutely I am. I am, like, the moment this game was done, I was like, right, I want another God of War. This game has gotten me really excited for the next one. And I'm eager to see where it goes next. So, would I recommend God of War just for the main campaign alone? Yes, I would. You don't see a lot of games like this anymore. And even if they had stripped away all the side content and just had it be like this 15-hour main campaign, like this very tightly controlled main campaign, I think it would still be worth a buy. Like, absolutely I do. Because The games like this, like that are single player only, that have this much content in it, that are this well polished and this well written, you don't get games like this anymore. Like, really, you don't. Like, so many publishers have just abandoned it, and I'm happy to see that Sony is still doing it. I hope they look at this and go, let's keep doing what we're doing. Hope to God they do, because God of War is proof that it absolutely works. Alrighty, thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of God of War. And as always, thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Bye!